What up, what up, what up, y'all? How are y'all doing? I'm doing great as usual. So, a couple days ago, we heard Jamal Charlo, or one of the Charlos, identical twins. It's tough to tell each time you hear him speak, but said that Tank Davis will be fighting on his undercard. Hmm. Tell me this ain't so, PBC. Tell me this ain't so, Mayweather Promotions. Because Tank Davis is the only pay-per-view fighter Mayweather promotion has. So what is this telling everybody in the boxing world? What is this telling everybody? If this is true, I don't know if it is true. Charlo could have just been trolling, but as soon as I heard those comments, it came to mind right away what Eddie Hearn, the UK promoter, and Bob Arum, head of Top Rank Promotions, have been saying about the PBC and Al Heyman for the past couple years, saying that the company is in trouble. They are running out of money. And for them to even have a chance at paying some of these people, like the Charlos, they have to make it a pay-per-view. Because Al Heyman ran through his budget with Showtime. And then he signed a deal with Fox and got a budget from them. And during COVID right now, he don't have the opportunity of running concerts as in the likes of Drake. So maybe Al Heyman was using some of his concert money. Kind of like robbing Peter to pay Paul. You know, take a little bit of money from here, go through that money, go sign a new deal. Oh, I got some more money from Fox. I can still fund a little bit of Showtime because I have prior obligations with them. But as soon as Al Heyman got the deal with Fox, all the big time fighters he had pretty much went to Fox. Like the big names. Like for example, this weekend Showtime's got a card. It's a decent card, but not their biggest stars. On this weekend's card, you got Robert Easter Jr., Otto Wallin, Dominic Brazil, and Adrian Broner's first fight back since his 2-year layoff. So it got me thinking: did the PBC finally running out of money? You know, like a year ago, you'd hear Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn. Yeah, he blew through the budget. Bob Arum used to say, "Yeah, he's paying the fighters way too much." And if you think about all PBC fighters, they got the starter kit. They got all that jewelry that's all over the place. They all got the chokers. You know, the Charlo. It's almost like they got the same jeweler. You sign with the PBC, go to this jeweler, and we'll hook you up. They all got it. Spence, Charlos, Tank Davis, Adrian Broner. You know, they all look like they got the same exact jewelry. It's funny. But, yeah, the question is PBC running out of money? And what has happened, I think, we saw a pay-per-view late last year with the Charlos, the two twins, on the same pay-per-view card. Now, did they do that because one Charlo can't pull the weight, so they needed both of them to sell the pay-per-view and pay these guys their minimums? Tank Davis had his first pay-per-view. Did it not do as well as they thought, so now they're going to pair up Charlo with Tank Davis? Is that what's going on here? They just don't have money in the budget. And is Fox Sports and Showtime Boxing sick and tired of losing their shirts on these pay-per-views? Well, not really the networks. Networks will probably most likely always break even because they get half of the pay-per-view fund. I mean, the pay-per-view revenue. And so, yeah. And this brought me to Wilder Fury 3. What's the real reason why this fight is not happening? Well, if you ask Wilder's side says Tyson Fury's scared. He cheated me in the second fight, and he's scared that he can't beat me in a fair fight. Well, if you believe that, I think you're an idiot. Because Fury not only fought him once, he fought him twice. And if you're on Fury's side, you'd say, well, Wilder's team let the contract expire, and they couldn't nail down a date, and I got to move on. I got a big fight with Anthony Joshua lined up. So those are the stories from both sides. But as we bring PBC in, PBC was the one who drafted up the Wilder Fury 2 contract. And in that contract, there's a rematch clause. Now, once Fury beat Wilder, it's up to Wilder to accept a rematch clause. Well, knowing Wilder and knowing that he ain't a punk, he said, yes, let's have that third fight. I accept my rematch clause. Now, PBC, go figure out where it's going to be and let's get everything together, Well, I think the PBC looked at it and said, well, last time with an audience, we pretty much broke even. This time with no audience, we're going to lose our shirt. And on top of that, the PBC wrote in the second contract that the winner would get 60% of the revenue. Now, I don't know if that's just the pay-per-view revenue or if that's the whole show. Because there's some fighters out there, mostly matchroom fighters like Anthony Joshua or Canelo Alvarez, they don't just get a percentage of the pay-per-view. They're entitled to the whole show. The ticket sales and everything like that. So I did a little bit of research last night to see if I'm just talking crazy here, but if you go to the second fight, Wilder Fury 1 did like 350,000 buys in the U.S. Now, of course, the rematch is going to be bigger, but in the rematch, everybody's base salary goes up. Now, according to the Nevada Athletic Commission, Fury and Wilder 2, their base salaries both were $5 million. If you believe that, you believe that. I would most likely believe Nevada Athletic Commission because I think it's public information. But for some reason, Dan Raphael says no, they have a base guaranteed of $25 million each, plus a percentage of pay-per-view. Now, if we go by the percentages, I just told you that Fury is entitled to 60%, Wilder's entitled to 40%. Now, for the second fight, you had 850,000 pay-per-view buys at $80 each. That comes to $68 million. Now, the networks, ESPN and Fox, take half of that right off the top. Boop. Gone. That leaves us with $34 million. Now, remember, supposedly, the base salaries, depending on who you ask, is 5 and 5 or 25 and 25. So, after the networks take their cut, we're left with $34 million. 60% of that $34 million is $20,400,000. That would go to Fury, if I'm correct. And that leaves 13.6 for Wilder. If we had these numbers, these same exact numbers for the third fight, that's how it would end up. But in the first fight, it was all 50-50. But I'm talking about the third fight. The reason why the third fight didn't happen. So if we take the numbers from the second fight, which I just read, and we put them onto the third fight, then that's the outcome. Fury, just off the pay-per-view, would get 20,400,000, and that leaves 13,600,000 for Wilder. Now, if you go off the gate of the second fight, they broke all Nevada records for a heavyweight fight. It was like 16.9. We'll round it up and say 17 million. All right. So now, 34 million after the pay-per-view takes her cut, and you add 17, we're at 51 million. Now, that's a funny number after you do some math that Dan Raphael said the second fight they got 25 million each. So they didn't break a million, so the networks pay both of their fighters 25 million. That leaves $1 million left over. Yes, it's not the greatest, but they didn't take a loss. Or they still could have taken a loss because they got to pay for production and all that. So they probably broke even on the second fight. And that's with an audience. So if you take that 17 million gate away, these networks would lose their shirt. Because don't you forget that after Wilder knocked out Brazil in 1 round, DAZN and Eddie Hearn went to Wilder trying to set up the AJ fight and said, Wilder, come to the zone, 3 fights, 120 million. We'll give you 20 million for Brazil, and we'll give you, or 100 million. We'll give you 20 million for Brazil, and then 40 million for each of the AJ fights. 100 million, 3 fights. Deontay Wilder didn't take that deal. And it was a gamble on his part. If he would have beat Fury, it was a great gamble. He would have been in line to make the 100 million for 1 fight instead of 40 for 1 fight. He gambled on himself, but he lost. So when he decided to not sign with DAZN and fight Fury a second time, I'm sure that PBC had to give him a baseline guarantee of something around 20 million. So that brings us back to the numbers. Because he got 20 million for Brazil. So that brings us back to the numbers. If you take away the 17 million and there's 34 million left, because there's no gate at this time, that leaves $34 million, and Fury is entitled to 60% of that, 20,400,000. Now we know that Tyson Fury's minimum is 20 million because he signed a 5-fight deal with ESPN. So, according to these numbers, ESPN would still be able to cover Tyson Fury's purse. But if Wilder's purse is 20 million, his base, that only leaves 13.6 million. 40% of that 34 million. So that would mean the PBC would be in the red of little bit, 6.4 million. They would have to shell out of their pockets to pay Wilder. So all this talk between fans of both sides, why the fight didn't happen. The fight didn't happen strictly down to money and business. The PBC didn't want to have to pay out of their pocket. They're into making fights because they want to make money. They don't want to lose money. Now, if there was no fans, let's do it with fans. Let's do it with fans. Say that Wilder Fury 3 happens with fans under the exact same numbers as last time. Take 51 million times 60%. Let me see if I can use this calculator here. So 51 million, 60% of that is 30,600,000. This is with fans. So of course, That would leave a leftover balance of 20,400,000 to Wilder. Now, depending on the base salary, if it was 20 million, 20 million, like I thought it might be, because I know Fury's contract, but I'm unsure about Wilder's contract after he turned down that DAZN deal. I'm assuming it's right around a baseline of 20 million, because that's what he was getting offered from another network. So why would he take anything less? Maybe it's more. It could be more. Maybe 25. But if they had the exact same numbers from the second fight, even with Fury getting 60% of the whole show, it could still fly without the networks losing money. You know, that would leave 20,400,000 to Wilder. Now, does PBC, if Wilder's base guarantee is 20 million, does PBC really want to do all this work, all this legwork, for a profit of 400,000? They'd still probably be in the red because, like I said, you have to pay the production team, everything else, and the undercard. So, I guess the whole point of this video is, what is going on with the PBC? Are they in real trouble here? Are they barely holding on? Are they fine? And the real reason why Fury and Wilder 3 didn't happen. Now, according to some people, he's in litigation and he's fighting for the third fight. But I think it's just him and his manager doing it. Because even if he wins the litigation and they say, yeah, Tyson Fury, you have to fight him, I still think PBC would be like, Deontay, we're not going to put on a fight that we lose money on. We've tried it twice. We're breaking even. We're not making any money. And we might even be losing money. We cannot do it. So this litigation is just a shot in the dark to try to get a few bucks out of Fury and let him move on and fight AJ. I think Wilder wants to fight Fury, but honestly, I don't think the networks want to back that fight. So that's my thoughts on that. And I need everybody to do me a favor, like always. Please like and subscribe. And also share my channel. New channel. I want to get up and running. I want to hit at least 50 subscribers. That's my goal. That I can start going live and chilling with you guys. So, yeah, check me out. Moore's House. Peace.